Nancy Kerrigan, you may remember her. Famous ice skater responding to lives lost there on that American Airlines flight.
I was kind of busy myself and sort of separated from a lot of what was going on. But I mean, I've seen them a lot of times here and there over the years, but everything you've heard of them, like maybe being a little tough, but with a smile on their face. And like anytime I walked in, oh, hi, it's so good to see you. It's like always welcoming and happy to see one another. And like, so just to walk in here and not see that is, I think, would be very strange for everybody that comes here, especially those that are here day in and day out. And it's going to be hard. And I always feel like, what am I doing? I don't come to the skating club all the time, but it was the only place I thought I should be right now. I did not expect this, neither did Stanley. I'm not sure, but we just wanted to be here with each other. And for Doug, we watched Doug's interview, and
that helped us.
It did help. Thank you. Yeah,
there are so many memories, and just having seen the skaters competing and knowing that Max is now, he did so well in the Nationals. He's made the world team as an alternate. And then Spencer, who was in your ice show, could you tell us what you told me about?
You had a
his
great
skating?
story.
Mm-hmm. My company does free outdoor shows around the city. Nancy's hosted and started many of them. And Spencer was in his first show with our company this past December in Kendall Square, Cambridge. And he'd never done a professional show before. It was a new experience for him. He was nervous. And then after the show ended, he came over and he was just beaming. This kid was so talented. He'd only started skating a few years ago, and he had all of his triples, and not just that, but this natural grace and beauty and understanding of ice and speed, and his positions were just so gorgeous. And he came to me and smiling ear to ear, saying, I get it now. I understand. And he started to discover this connection with the audience and that joy that he was giving to other people through his gift. And he said, please let me skate again with you next year. I had already reached out to people like Doug, who is the artistic director of Ice Dance International, and said, you've got to keep your eye on this kid. You're going to want him for your company. He was just brilliant and so kind. And he was great backstage. That matters to me even more than the onstage talent of these kids. And
we watched him here.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand this. And just really praying for his family.
For all of them.
For all of them.
Olympic potential?
Yes, I do.
Definitely.
I've never seen somebody come to it so fast.
And so naturally.
So naturally.
I think it was 3 years ago. Mia, do you know Ben? 3 years ago.
That's unheard of.
I mean, these kids can make it look really easy when they're doing triple jumps and all of their triples. It's actually not very easy. You don't just need talent. You need to have a lot of hard work to get there.
Grit.
And for him, and grit, thank you, and resilience. And for him to get there in 3 years, that's why I refer to him as a phenom.
What about Gina? Olympic potential? She's 13.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she was in it to win it. And she was in it to win it in a Tenley way. Full of grace, a serious competitor, but so nice about it and so supportive of her fellow competitors. Just a delight, but for a little 13-year-old, just full of grace. And I want to say one other thing about Vadim and Jenya, because I refer to them as being strict, and I think what I really mean to say is they had high standards, because they were incredibly kind They were so kind, but they had high standards. And the combination really worked with their kids because they felt the support, but they also knew where the bar was. And I have to say, for me as CEO here, I could not walk into this arena, see them for the first time that day, and for them not to come over, shake my hand, and thank me for the opportunity to be here, which you don't always see. Just very grateful and generous with their feedback.
Now, earlier you mentioned, and sadly this was the first time that the skating world has dealt with a tragedy like this. You mentioned the 1961 crash. I'm wondering if the group has any reflections on that, especially being in this building where it's no longer allowed.
I mean, we can probably all speak to that. Well, maybe you're probably too young.
Thank you.
I grew up in the shadow of that. So the crash had happened before I was born, but my mom had me skating at a very early age. And even as a little 4-year-old, as a little 3-year-old, I knew something terrible had happened. Folks weren't talking about it, but there was a pall. There was like this black energy in the arena at the old facility at 1240 Soldiers Field Road. And as a little kid, it was like the terrible awful that you couldn't talk about. It was that devastating. And I just knew not to ask about it, but I could viscerally feel it. I think we'll see how we move forward here. The fact that we have no skaters on the ice right now and no coaches is not because we asked them not to come. I think they're staying away, they're just processing this, and they're taking a break. But I think Nancy and Tenley and Elin and Paul coming to join us today and not knowing there would be media here, but just to be part of the fabric of our community over the decades speaks a lot to why skating is such a special and in many ways unique sport, a really strong sport.
I will attest to that, going through something tragic, not like this, but myself, that the communities stood behind me, and I'm grateful for that. And so it's my turn now to hopefully be here. I'm not sure what it is to do. Maybe get someone a cup of coffee, but a hug, I'm here for hugs. I don't know. It's just, I want to be able to give back what I feel like I got.
Nancy, so many people see figure skating as hyper-competitive.
Oh, thank you.
Can you see other figure skaters other than competitors? Obviously today, even though perhaps you didn't personally know these people, you feel a connection. So skaters just don't see each other as somebody else to beat on the ice. Do that.
But I think there's like a camaraderie. We spend a lot of time focused on yourself or your team if you're a para dance, but you're in the cold, not so much here, but a lot, hour after hour. So there is like this, you don't have to know everybody to feel that connection. We've been through the same thing, that training, that rigorous schedule of falling over and over and somehow picking yourself back up, which is like the main lesson I think learned in skating is you get back up. Keep on trying, and even when it's hard, you get back up. Even when you're crying, hurt, pain, you get back up and move forward. It's not easy, but that's what we all have to do now together.
Can you reflect on what this loss means for the sport, too? To lose coaches like that, to lose just up-and-comers like that, what that means for the sport.
Does anybody want to start on that one?
Is there more than just here?
I would say, first of all, that the sport will rebound. It always hurts to lose coaches of the talent we lost. In 1961, the same thing happened. We lost some very, very outstanding coaches, but coaches came up and worked harder. To Nancy's point, Nancy went through a very tough time. She had great resolve in 1994 and came back. Tenley, around her Olympic time, as you may recall, had an injury, if I recall correctly, Tenley, but she fought back. Skaters are resolute. The other thing I would say is that we're part of a larger sports community. I've heard today from the president of USA Hockey, the executive director of USA Hockey. I've heard from countless people in other sports. We band together. We're a family, not only of figure skating, but of sports men and women. So I think we will very much rebound, and we'll get some coaches going.
Nancy, you spoke about the coaches a little bit. Are there others that were lost that you would like to share anything about, any that you knew personally?
No, I don't know.
Not of your generation,
No,
really.
yeah, no.
Okay.
There obviously were more, I think, on the plane that weren't from here, but other skaters. So our community's not that, it's pretty small. I think everyone's talked to people in different parts of like Washington and Virginia, and it's not just here that's hurting, and it's not just in these specific places. Every rink that has skating has some, I'm sure, some feeling towards this. It's tragic. But I can't I don't know. I can't think.
Other questions?
This was a tragic loss of life, and you mentioned the community is pretty small. So how would you explain the depth of loss in this instance?
We're feeling it.
Well, the community is small. I mean, we have 1,100 members here at the Skating Club of Boston. I think U.S. Figure Skating has 100,000 members. So it's small and it's tight-knit, but it's also very large. I think what makes it feel small is we're so cohesive. And for Nancy's point, and I think Tenley's as well, what you experience at an ice facility here in Boston can be so similar to what you experience in Los Angeles and elsewhere, that there's a common denominator to it. So folks feel this and can relate to this. They can relate to having young kids in their own facility, whether it's here in Boston or Northern Virginia or DC or elsewhere in the country. And I think that's what really makes it so small and tight-knit. Other questions?
Doug, is this a time of day when you normally would see skaters out here training?
This would be packed. What time is it?
1:30.
In an hour, it would be packed.
But there would be kids here.
But we would still have kids
Always.
here. We'd have Team USA kids here that have already, they're past high school. They can train at any time of day. Those coaches would be here. Four Continents Championship, an international event that Max is supposed to go to, is coming up. The World Championships are coming up. The Junior World Championships are coming up. We have 2 skaters going to the Junior World Championships. We have the current and just very recently minted U.S. pair champions who train here and are members here who are going to the World Championships at TD Garden at the end of March. So there would normally be a lot of training here. Folks have taken a break. Misha and Elisa are with Max. They're training mates. They're friends. And all friends with the Hans and the Lanes, too. So, yes, this would normally be crowded.
When do you plan to see people back out on the ice?
I don't know. I think when they're comfortable coming back on the ice.
And what is your message to your community of 1,100 members? You said, what is it that you told the families and the members?
I was just working on a communication with them right before coming out here, that it's tragic, that we all feel it. We can't explain it. We're in this together. We always support each other together. It's part of the fabric of who we are, both at the Skating Club of Boston and in our skating community. Offer them opportunities to come in and grieve together, both tomorrow, like actually this evening and tomorrow. And so we'll put that out there and see how our members respond. I can tell they're feeling things. I think I mentioned earlier, I just can't get to all the texts and emails that I've been getting. And it's heartwarming, and I feel bad that I'm not responding as quickly as I might like. But it really does feel good to know that so many people from around the world and around this country really care. And they care about, but they care about the sport, and they care about the athletes. And that's really why we're a tight-knit community.
Could I just, I think what we'll find is that the skaters will come to the ice and skate as part of the healing, because when you skate, it's an expression, and I think that it will help them to be together on the ice.
Agreed.
Yeah, and that's what I was just thinking, this similar, that we all grieve differently, and I just urge them all to be patient with each other, because someone might want to get out there and just practice like it was last week, and someone else might feel like that's not appropriate, but we all grieve differently and at different times and in different ways, and we have we just have to be accepting, like, that's how they're dealing with it. They just have to go, and somebody else might not be able to step back on the ice for a little while, and that's okay too. Like, just be patient with one another and be there to support one another, whichever way they choose to deal.
And I think for me, as the leader of this organization, you know, it's my job to make sure our ice is occupied and is at capacity. But I have to tell you that this ice being empty...
You probably remember her face and her voice. We were just listening to Nancy Kerrigan, our former Olympic figure skating champ from the 90s. We are just getting word of those names, those ice skaters, skating champs that were killed in the American Airlines flight. Nancy Kerrigan there speaking at the Skating Club of Boston in Norwood, Mass. An emotional Nancy Kerrigan, as we are now learning that it was 6 individuals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals from the Skating Club of Boston that were killed in that plane crash. We are learning their names. I'm going to tell you who they are right now. It was 2 skaters, their mothers, and also 2 of the coaches. Gina Han, one of the skaters there, killed in that plane crash, a skater that trained there where Nancy Kerrigan is in Norwood, Massachusetts, 13 years old. Her mother, Gina Han, was also on that flight with her and killed. 16-year-old skater Spencer Lane and his mother, Molly Lane, both killed in that plane crash. And then we are learning those Russian world figure skating champs, the coaches of those athletes, a part of that skating club there in Boston, Vadim Nomov and also Zhenya Shishkova. Those are the 2 Russian skating champs and coaches of those 2 young skaters that were killed in that plane crash, along with their mother. The U.S. Figure Skating putting out a statement saying U.S. Figure Skating can confirm that several of our members of our skating community were sadly aboard American Airlines Flight 5342, which collided with that helicopter in Washington, D.C. These athletes, coaches, and family members returning home from the National Development Camp that was held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita, Kansas. This U.S. Figure Skating statement going on to say we are devastated by this unspeakable tragedy and hold the victims' families closely in our hearts.